How's it going, YouTube? Navysooner here. Today, we're going to be looking at this guy right here. Yeah, I kind of did a video on it before, but it wasn't really a review. Look at it. Alright, so you saw me shooting a little bit. What this firearm is the CZ83. CZ83 is the civilian version of the VZ82, which is the military version. This firearm itself is chambered in 9mm Browning, or as us Americans like to call it, 380 ACP. It's also 9x17 and 9mm Kirks. The military version, the VZ82, comes in 9mm Makarov or 9x18. The VZ82 also has a polygonal barrel for the 9mm Makarov. The CZ83 also comes in 9mm Makarov and basically the same thing, it's just got a different stamping on it. Other chamberings that this firearm has is 32 auto, also known as 7.65 Browning. And then you have the 9mm PAK or PAK. 9mm PAK, that firearm comes in a smooth barrel because it is a less than lethal option. It's either blanks, gas rounds, or rubber bullets. The 380 and the 32 ACP come in grooved rifling, which is more of the traditional style rifling. The barrel is fixed and it's 3.8 inches and it is chrome lined. It has a magazine capacity of 12 rounds, although I can get 13 in there. The other types of ammunition come with a different amount of rounds that can be put into the magazine. 9mm Makarov magazines are actually the same magazines that are used with the 380 ACP. This firearm also has ambidextrous safety. Yes, I just flagged myself, but if you just saw, I didn't actually have a round in there, so. It also has an ambidextrous magazine release. You can do it from this side, and you can do it from this side. The VZ82 was brought into service by Czechoslovakia back in 1983, which is now the Czech Republic. It still says Czechoslovakia here on the slide when it was manufactured, when it was still Czechoslovakia. Random fact, when we fought Iraq in the Gulf War, this was one of Iraq's sidearms of choice. When it came into service, it replaced the Tokarevs that Czechoslovakia had been using as their sidearm. Now they have been phased out and they are being replaced with CZ75s. You can still probably find them in use by reserves or police officers somewhere. The civilian version, this one, the CZ83, was produced all the way up until 2012 when CZ actually stopped producing them. Yes, the company CZ that makes the CZ75, the Scorpion, those guns are the ones that made these firearms. The VZ82 and the CZ83 were designed using the Makarov style firearm, but this one is a little bit nicer, I believe. Mainly because you have the ambidextrous controls on here with the safety and the magazine release. Another reason that I think it's better than a regular Makarov is you have more rounds. Something else that I think is better over the regular Makarovs is the way of taking down. Regular Makarovs, you have to pull down on the trigger guard and like move it to one side or the other. This one, you just pull it down and then you can take it apart. Just like that. See? It's got the fixed barrel in here. You can't see in there because it's kind of dirty because I've been shooting it, but it is chrome lined as well. I believe that the Makarovs are some of the easiest to take down in the first place, but this one is a little bit easier because you don't have to move it to one side or the other to make sure that you can get it out. Makarovs in general, including this one, which was designed after the Makarov, are straight blowback designs. Now, straight blowback designs, usually they will create more of a kick or felt recoil. But this one being in 380 and a little bit heavier, I had a really good time shooting this, and muzzle flip is minimal. Now let's go on to the trigger. The trigger is the trigger. What can I say about it? It's a double action, single action trigger. Double action means that when you pull the trigger, the hammer comes back, hits the wall, and then fires. Single action is when the hammer is back already and you just pull the trigger. Most of the time this firearm is going to be in single action when you're pulling the trigger, because when you rack the slide, it's going into single action mode anyways. You can ride the hammer down, but I just choose not to, especially with firearms that have a safety. The double action feel of this gun. It is like any other Makarov or double action firearm, a very heavy double action pull. I don't know exactly how much it pulls because my trigger gauge only goes up to 8 pounds. Yeah, I know I have a shitty Wheeler trigger gauge, but it's a trigger gauge nonetheless. It doesn't register how heavy this firearm is for the pull. But what I can say about the pull is that it's probably one of the smoothest double action pulls I've ever felt, ever. It is really nice, it's still heavy. Not quite as heavy as like the Polish P64, but it's still heavy. The single action, like every other double single action gun, is much lighter than the double action pull. The only problem that I have with the single action pull is there is literally no wall. It's just, there we go. It's really smooth, don't get me wrong, but there's no definable wall there. The sights on this firearm are dovetailed in the back and there's a pin in the front. There are multiple options to be able to change out your sights, which includes Trijicon glow-in-the-dark sights. So that's pretty cool. There's not many Makarovs that have that ability. This one does. Another cool thing is if you go to czcustom.com, you can get a base plate that goes into this dovetail and you can put an optic on this thing. I'm thinking about doing it just cause. I was getting ready to sell this just cause I need to make money to be able to bring more firearms in, but I might get that plate and put a red dot on here and have some fun. I mean, why not? It's America, right? There's been worse Bubba things going on firearms. Oh well. All in all, this is a cool gun to have in the safe to shoot. The recoil was so minimal that it's probably a really good gun to teach people that have never shot firearms before how to use a firearm, especially double and single action. Yes, the double action is a little heavy, but it's not nearly as heavy as a lot of other double actions. As well, there are other people that use this gun as a concealed carry weapon. I wouldn't. It's a little heavy for my liking, especially for how small it is. It's pretty heavy. Yeah, it's just heavy, so I'm not going to be concealed carrying a firearm like this. For me, this is a put it in the safe, have a good time shooting it out at the range, and if shit hits the fan, I have a backup firearm, or if shit hits the fan and a friend comes to stay with us and they don't have a firearm, this would be a good option to give to them. All that being said, Navysooner out. Fuzzy's Fish Tacos. If they ain't dripping on you, you ain't eating it right. That's funny because fuzzy fish tacos equals hairy vagina.